All right, our panel is back, and we've added Jack Kingston, former Georgia congressman and former senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Congressman, good morning to you, and I want to let you start this block since you're just joining the conversation. The Trump campaign, the Trump administration has said that there's no evidence of collusion and have criticized quite openly on Twitter and other places Robert Mueller and his team now that they've reached the point of the first charges being filed, going to a grand jury, that federal grand jury thing, that there is now probable cause that a crime has been committed. What's your reaction? We haven't heard from the president. We haven't heard from the White House.
Well, I still don't believe that there is any collusion or that they're going to find any evidence of collusion. We have no idea on an investigation this wide where they're going and what they're going to get somebody for. Just for example, if a campaign worker had some shady dealings of any nature, it could be on the table, and it could be the kind of thing that an investigation like this stumbles across. So we just don't really know. I'm confident that they're not going to find any collusion. I do want to get back to the timing of this. I think it is part of a chess game because there's a lot of talk in Washington right now about James Comey and his memo that cleared or exonerated Hillary Clinton before the investigation was even complete. There's discussion about Uranium One and the $2.3 million that the president of the company gave to the Clinton Foundation. There's discussion about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and John Podesta all denying any knowledge of who paid for the dossier, and all of that's coming out and Congress is looking into it. Then suddenly Mueller makes this move. Could be part of a chess game, could just be the coincidence of timing in Washington, D.C.
Now, Mark, let me come back to you because we heard the list there where it seems like there are two realities. While this is happening, there is another network that doesn't talk at any length about the major developments coming out over the last few hours. There are many people who, as we heard from Jack there, are going on that line. What do you make of this split reality, for lack of a better term?
It's fascinating. It's like a political Rorschach test. People kind of see what they want to see based on their political orientation, but there are some concrete facts here. And one fact is that there's going to be an indictment. There have been target letters issued prior to the indictment. So I disagree with my friend Jack. This isn't just potentially a random campaign worker who may have had some shady dealing who we stumbled across. This is an investigation that has produced some serious information, and it's far more likely that this is the first domino in many than that this is some odd outlier. And with regard to the Clintons and with regard to the DNC, I don't want to sidestep that. I think that is an important conversation that we need to have, but somehow right-wing media and the Trump administration, which in many ways are the same thing, have somehow spun this into a moment where the Democrats and Clintons are under investigation and not the president. And they frame the argument in that way so that when Trump is ultimately linked to a controversy, whether he's guilty or not, I'm not suggesting, but just right now linked to it through whatever happens on Monday when someone is charged and taken into custody. When that happens, they can say, hey, wait, we were in the middle of a Democratic investigation, and suddenly they tried to distract us with something that is only marginally linked to President Trump. This is a chess game, and it's a chess game that's being masterfully manipulated by the right, but it's important that we keep our eye on what's important here, which is this investigation and it's these indictments.
Paige, let me come to you because I want you to pick up on something that the congressman said there, that he still doesn't believe there's any evidence of collusion and that no one's going to be charged with collusion. On Monday, if that's when this is unsealed, there will be no charge of quote-unquote collusion.
That's exactly correct. There will be no collusion in this indictment because collusion itself is not a federal crime. So what will have to be in this indictment is some allegation that the defendant broke federal law, made some sort of commission of an offense under federal law, and collusion itself is not defined under there. So once this indictment is unsealed, the White House looks at it, they may say, hey, look, there's no collusion in this indictment, but there never could be. But other charges related to Russian interference in the election, hacking charges, obstruction charges, perhaps false statement charges that occurred during the course of the investigation, all of that is possible, but you're not going to see a collusion charge because it doesn't exist.
Eugene, one other element here that I don't think is getting enough attention is that Data Bente, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, he resigned surprisingly yesterday. People may remember that name, but he was briefly the acting Attorney General, also the acting Deputy Attorney General for a period. Again, that Eastern District of Virginia is important to this case. Many of the subpoenas came through that district. Any correlation, any connection here that you're learning about?
I think that's very possible. In terms of details regarding the reason why he stepped away from his position, those haven't been clear as of yet, but that could be forthcoming, just like so much of the information related to this investigation could be forthcoming. I think what we will see from the Trump campaign in response, though, because there can be no charge of collusion, they will continue to say that there is no collusion. But as has been mentioned before, this investigation is wide sweeping, and just because there perhaps will not be a charge of collusion, that doesn't mean that there won't be other revelations that were problematic involving multiple people, as we see all the way down to the state attorney general's level.
Amber, Mark touched on this in the last segment about the president or the White House potentially getting a heads up on this. The president tweeted, "It is now commonly agreed after many months of costly looking and there was no collusion between Russia and Trump, was collusion with HC." That tweet coming out yesterday. I mean, what is the likelihood that the White House got some heads up here?
From my understanding of the way the special counsel works, that would not be the way, it would not happen where the White House got a heads up if someone in their circle were being charged with a crime, especially if it were related to a broader investigation that of the White House and President Trump's campaign. I mean, from my understanding from legal experts is you do not launch a special investigation that's gone on for months and expanded to a dozen attorneys with a wide-ranging array of prosecutorial skills and not try to focus very much on the top. So this notion that the White House got a heads up doesn't underscore with what I understand the facts to be, which is that this investigation is trying to get to the bottom of a very serious issue related to the President of the United States. It would be extraordinary if they did get a heads up about this.
Yeah, the person and those charges will glean a lot of light on potentially the strategy moving forward. As we know, this investigation likely is not over. Amber Phillips, Eugene Scott, Paige Pate, Mark Lamont Hill, Jack Kingston, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and just ahead, what we're learning from the thousands of pages